everybody, it's me, Lagar Laxon, and I'm back again doing a review of an unboxing. I'm also known as Chino and Artie. These are PC games that I always tend to unbox, and this is one of the rare. And the reason why I picked this title is I'm a big fan of survival horror, and what really started it all was a PC game called Alone in the Dark. But I got the sequel for a reason. This is the new versions, but this is the original. The reason why I got this version is because from back then it was CompUSA when I used to shop for my softwares, and there was only a 3.5 floppy version of this game, and there was part 1 and 2, and this is actually part 2 that came with. Right here it says includes Alone in the Dark, and they put in the MSRP price when I remember the game was already $19.99 being released in a 3.5 floppy. So I got the CD-ROM version, which is better to preserve the digital quality of the game. And of course, this box, okay, the game was made by this company Infogames. Okay, I don't know why it's called iMotion. Before even iPhone, or even that word I was very, and descent into the terrifying depths of ultimate 3D virtual mystery. Look at the screenshots. Yes. Now, the reason why I picked this is because there's actually 3 games in this. Okay, because you play as Edward Conby, and one reason I picked this box is because it has 3 games. One, it has the prototype. The original prototype was called Jack in the Dark, and it also has Alone in the Dark and Part 2. Now, it shows the system requirements. It's ridiculous. It's really... Look at that. If I can focus the camera. Can it focus? Never mind. I think there we go. That's good enough. 386 33 megahertz and 2 megabytes of RAM. And of course you need a VGA monitor that supports 256 colors. Now let's open this up. Of course it's in a sleeve box, and this is what you get inside. The reason why I'm making this review, because look at this. Well, this is a classic. Look at this. It comes with an L-shaped Tetris-like foam. You get Alone in the Dark 1 and 2. The bonus is on Alone in the Dark, the first one, is that you get Jack in the Dark. Yes, the prototype. It was an alpha-made demo. And now look at the game, but the success of this game is not like how Resident Evil is, because this is the game that started it off. Of course, it's a typical registration card I always talk about, and I don't get it why the sequel, this is the new one, on that era, it's just a blue and white print of the cover, while the cover over here is nicely done. And they totally revised the cover, because look at the difference. It's identical. This is the original one, and the reason why is that you originally played an old man, and now they made him more younger, and they made him more younger and younger, and the time frame on this game is really off, because ever since Resident Evil came out, because the game is identical to Resident Evil, the only difference is that you don't run. It's really slow, and he's very. If you see the gameplay on this, it's very pixelated, it's very outdated, but yet this is what started it all. Alone in the Dark was made into a movie later on, directed by Uwe Boll, and Uwe Boll totally destroyed that movie. And right now I'm trying to find Alone in the Dark. There was a remake later on. Oh, here it is. It was released on the PC and PlayStation. Oh god, I know the box is destroyed. Yeah, the new Nightmare. I gotta say the PC version looked like a generic, 2D game and 3D. With a mix of 3D, but when you're playing it on the PlayStation, it was more better. And this is the best way to play this game, is on an AMD processor. And look at the original. This is how it was. Survival horror games. Info Games was known for making survival horror games. They also made Time Commando, which was another game that's identical. The reason why they call it survival horror is that when you see how he walks and the camera pans to the next angle, that's what makes this game a classic, because that's the gameplay of Resident Evil. And later on, Resident Evil started doing identical things from this game called Code Fear that I played. It was a third person. And if you play this game, it looks just like Resident Evil 4. So, Capcom borrowed a lot of elements, or copied a lot of elements from the past games and turned it into their own brand. And here's the funny thing. Do you see Jack right there? That's the Jack in the Dark character that I was talking about, but they just had him as a bad guy now. Now, the game is, like I said, it was slow. And look at this. It just goes from one scene to the next, and yeah. Now, when Uwe Boll directed the movie, it stars Christian Slater. I gotta say, that was not a good movie. And they made a sequel later on with that Vietnamese, I think it was Vietnamese or Korean, a Korean actor that you see in Fast and Furious. I forgot his name. He was known as the main bad guy in Ninja Assassins, which was it looked like a television horror movie, but it was a straight-to-video movie anyway. But yes, this is a true classic. If you like Resident Evil, this is the game that started it all. They ported it on later on to the Saturn and then the PlayStation, and it was panned by critics, and they thought it was a Resident Evil copycat when they didn't know it was the other way around, because PC gaming is the thing that started before console was ever, like today, Xbox and PS3, or even starting from the PlayStation 1. PC games was the only one way to play games almost identical to its original source. Like even playing Mortal Kombat, that's even like, or playing arcade games. And I gotta say, the Alone in the Dark series is the only way to enjoy it is playing the PC version, and they haven't made a remastered version of it. And so far, the Alone in the Dark franchise has been bought off by Atari, and it just went down more when they made that new gameplay. It was just bad. You go to Steam right now, and it's not even worth your time. And they took the likeness of Christian Slater's hair, but not his face. But Edward Carnby is the original Chris Redfield, and there was other games identical before, Resident Evil. Because after Alone in the Dark, they made a game called The Crow, City of Angels. That was a tragedy. It has the sound effects. I couldn't even stop laughing hearing that. And the camera angles are so bad, and you just see a guy painted face looking like a messed up mime from pixelated graphics from one scene to the next that was released on the PlayStation. And it was so dark, and it was so hard to play. And there was a canceled game, too, later on, using the same game engine, starring Pamela Anderson in Barbed Wire. And they canceled that game before it was even they had actually test footage on the game shows and stuff like that, but it was never released. But Alone in the Dark is a classic, and you guys gotta check up on that. That was before Resident Evil, so look it up. It was one of the original survival horrors, and there was another one that was never intended to be a survival horror, but here's another one. Martian Gothic was supposed to be a point-and-click adventure, and it ended up being one of those survival horrors, and it has a lousy ending. I mean, one of your characters has to do a sacrifice. And there's other games that does, games in point-and-click, and then it became a survival horror because if you look at the controls, that's what makes it a survival horror. When you put in a control instead of pointing-clicking, it becomes a survival horror because it goes from one angle to the next. Like, Chrono Masters is a classic, and before even playing this game, there was another game called Bureau 14, or Bureau 13. that goes from one angle to the next. Bureau 13. This was, I got two versions of this game. I got a CD-ROM version and a 3.5 floppy version. 3.5 floppy version is the same version you're going to get from the CD-ROM version. The difference with the CD-ROM version is you get a full motion intro, and what else? You actually get a CD audio track. Then they use the same game engine to release a game called Hell, starring Dennis Hopper as Mr. Beautiful. So you gotta look up at the past, what makes these games survival horrors, and when you put them in a gamepad control, that's what it becomes, a survival horror. But if you put in a point and click adventure, it becomes like one of the Sierra games. Like, look at this game, Broken Sword. I got two versions. Broken Swords is another one. It's third person, and it goes from one angle to the next. This one's actually is a survival horror game. Not survival horror, but the control scheme is identical to it. And then I have another game that becomes a point and click later on. Dreamfall, or you guys know it as The Longest Journey. And it's just about making controls. I noticed the difference. But I thank you guys for watching. So click back to my channel and subscribe if you want to, and follow up on my previous videos, because before I started doing unboxing videos, I ended up doing fake iPhones, fake PSPs, and doing some other things that I have in my collection. Thanks for watching.